morning and praise the Lord. I am sensing that today many of you have come with very special needs, and I believe the Lord has got something very special to speak to you today. So please listen very attentively. Please give me your undivided attention. I believe the Lord has got a special word for you today, and we are studying from the book of Exodus and chapter 32. Let us turn to the book of Exodus, chapter 32. I am not reading this is a long chapter, but I believe there are certain things the Lord wants to minister to our hearts from this chapter. Very eventful chapter, yet very instructive. In many ways it is tragic, but in many ways teaching us important truths in our day-to-day Christian life. Okay. Now, this is a chapter in which people sinned against God. When they saw that Moses was not coming and Moses was tarrying, here they went and did something terribly wrong. The first commandment that God had given, thou shalt not make any other gods before me, the very first commandment that they broke. Okay, so let me read for you verse 1 maybe from that chapter 32. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him. You see, when Moses went up to the mountain, God gave them a very specific command. I would like to read that in chapter 24 of Exodus and verse 14. If you get that verse, please read it. Exodus.
Said to the elders, wait here for us until we come back.
Wait here for us until we come back. That was the command given to them. Before Moses went up to the mountain, he said, we're going to come down. Wait here. Now, waiting is not, many times we think it's a passive thing, right? But no, it's an active thing. When God says, wait here for me, that means it is not just sitting and idling and wasting time or anything. No. He says, wait here, pray and be expectant, because I am going to come down to you with something very important. You see, whenever God tells his people to wait, he wants them to be expectant of what he is going to give to us. The waiting period, we know, it is a very difficult period, right? In the Bible, we see people who messed up the waiting period, and we saw people who brought wonderful blessings out of waiting period. I want to take a couple of people who messed up the waiting period, who really didn't do what God expected them to do. And then finally what happened? That they reaped the bad results of using or not using that waiting time properly. Let me give you an example. Now in the Bible, if you look, you will see in the life of Abraham, we see that God told him that you're going to have a child. I will make your children like the stars of the sky, like the sand of the seashore, that you cannot number. You know what age he told him? He told that when he was 75. Now you see how difficult for a 75-year-old man and a 65-year-old woman to have a child in today's situation, right? At that time there is no infertility treatment or medical science has not developed to give them any other hope. So it was a promise given to them that you will have a child and God is going to bless that child so that they will become a big nation. He waited for 1 year and 2 years and 3 years, and how many years he waited? He waited for some time, but by the time it was 10 years, he was getting a little restless. Right? He became 80. When he became 85, his wife said, come on. We can't wait this long. God can't really, we are getting old. We need to do something. We can't really wait and mess up whole things. If you don't take action, I am a barren woman. God is not giving me any children. You go to our bond slave and have a child through that. You see, when we wait, many times first thing that we do is God, what Sarah said, God had closed my womb. When we wait and things won't happen, whom do we blame? We blame God. So some of the indicators, okay, when things go difficult and tough, we blame God. When God has closed my womb, this is something difficult. That's what she says in there. God has closed my womb. Blame God for this delay. Blame God for the difficulty. If God had thought about this, He would have opened doors for me. What's going on in my life? All these questions we might ask. So our first mistake that we make, blame God. Because God knows what's going on. God knows that you're waiting. God knows that you're going through this. But He says you blame God sometimes. Second mistake that we do while we are waiting is we operate in flesh. Instead of asking God, what do you want me to do? Which way I should take? Which direction I should go? Instead of that, what did Sarah say? Here is the bond slave. And in her own flesh, in her own thinking, she made a decision, says, God has closed my womb, so I am going to make a decision that I'm going to help God. I'm going to operate. And what did she do? She operated in flesh. That's the second mistake that we could make when we wait. We make our own plans. We push things our own way. We know that's wrong. We know this is not the way that God promised. This is not. Sometimes in marriage we think about this, things are getting delayed and say, instead of waiting for a godly person as a husband or a wife, then we think, I can't wait long, I'll make my own decisions. Then we get into trouble and difficulty. This is the same thing that Sarah got into. Operating in the flesh. We know what the trouble erupted after that, right? The smile came and the pain and the sorrow of sending Ismail away. And even after how many years? 4,000 years, that trouble had not ended now. You see, the one wrong mistake you make while in the waiting period could have long range ramifications in life. So that's the second mistake that we make. The third thing is that when we make haste in waiting, there are evil fruits that will come out of it. We have to get things in the bad way. We see majority, everyone does that. We say everyone does that. We justifies what we do. You see this same case in this chapter. Majority of the people, they said, let us bring our gold. Let us do. It's a tendency to follow the crowd when we wait. You see, when God has called you for a single purpose, can you stand for the Lord alone in the waiting period? Everyone says, your relatives are saying, your friends are saying, you're putting pressure from different places. And in that waiting period, when we are under pressure, we make wrong decisions. So, listening to majority, that's the third mistake that we make while in the waiting period. We are prone to listen to majority voice. Instead of listening to God's voice, we listen to the majority voice. That may be your relatives, that may be your friends, or whatever, well-wishers or whatever. So, that's something that happened. So, I want to give you another example in the Bible. We saw about Saul, instead of waiting for the Lord, he went and did the sacrifice. And what happened? His kingdom was torn out. Instead of waiting for Lord to do the things His way, he operated in flesh again there. He didn't wait for the Lord. And see what happens. I want to bring an example of a man who waited for the Lord and was blessed. You remember the story of Joseph in Potiphar's house? He was a very faithful servant in Potiphar's house. But because of that woman, he was thrown into the prison. And in that prison, he was faithful there. He was so faithful that the jailer or the prison guard gave all the prisoners into his hand, and he was looking after their affairs. And he saw the dream. Two people saw the dream. You remember the story? And then he interpreted the dream for them. And he told them to that man, he said, when it is well with you, please tell my case to Pharaoh, because you are going to see Pharaoh's face every day. Please tell him that there's one guy here. He was good to me. He interpreted my dream. He didn't do anything wrong. Please sign clemency petition or whatever thing and release him from prison. He's such a nice guy. He's an innocent fellow. He's not done anything wrong. Please plead my case before Pharaoh. But how long he had to wait? But this fellow, the cupbearer, he forgot about him. He forgot about him, and he said, thank you very much for all the good things. You interpreted my dream, and the dream came true. Many of us are like that. When we are in trouble, we come to God, and when God helps us, forget Him. And this man not forgotten one day. Every day he is enjoying the blessings that he got because of the dream that he saw, but he forgot for not one day, not 2 days. How many? 2 years. 2 years. Every day, morning, Joseph is getting up. This day I'll get a call from Pharaoh's office. I hope this fellow remembers me today. But 2 years he went through the drudgery of that dungeon of an Egyptian, where away from his home, away from his dear ones, away from his relatives, away from the country of his birth. He's just wasting away. But is that time a waste? What was God doing? God was working in the background. God was working in the background. Remember, I told you before that if that cupbearer had remembered Joseph at that time, immediately what would have happened? Pharaoh would have said, okay, fine, let this fellow go. Best that he can receive is what? A free slave. If Pharaoh had remembered him at that time, when the cupbearer was reinstated into his old position, the best that Joseph could have got was what? Just a free slave, or maybe slave of someone, or whatever. They were going back to Potiphar's house. Whatever options. No, that's all. 2 years, when did Pharaoh remember? God remembered Joseph. He said, I saw a dream. Oh, now I know my fault, the cupbearer said. And at the right moment, the cupbearer remembered Joseph. And what happened? That waiting period, God was teaching him patience. God was teaching him skills which will be greatly in handy when he becomes a prime minister. At that time, God took him, said, one moment. It takes God only one moment to take you from the dungeon into the most high position of Egypt. My dear brothers and sisters, waiting period is not bad. Waiting period is not discouraging. Waiting period is not disappointing time. It is a time that God works in the background. So what you should do? What is waiting for? Waiting. I want to see 3 benefits of waiting. Number 1. Waiting allows God to fulfill His perfect will. Right? We saw in Joseph's case. He waited, and then what was God thinking about? Bringing this whole nation of Israel into Egypt and keeping them in famine. And God had sent Joseph for this. God's larger plan was not just taking Joseph out of the dungeon. It was not God's larger plan. God's larger plan was there is a nation waiting for him. There is a nation to be born here. God wants to show his goodness and mercy and long suffering, and his great and majestic plans are going to be unraveled in this place. And he's using Joseph. Are you an instrument through which God can show his perfect will? So number one, waiting period is a time when God allows us or works through us to fulfill his perfect will. Are you willing to be instruments of God's operation? Joseph would have thought, thank God that I had to wait, because now he remembered me at the right time, and God brought this cupbearer to remembrance about Joseph for the right time, and then on one day he was made. Second benefit of waiting is God wants us to transform our character. Waiting transforms our character. Remember the story of Moses. When Moses was young, he had a zeal. He went to go and see how his brothers were, and he was very zealous for his brothers. I want to do something for them. And out of his flesh, what did he do? Out of his zeal, tried to rescue them. And God had to send him to the desert school for how many years? 40 years. Every day I believe Moses would have asked, God, why don't you cut short? This 40 is too much. Make it 20. I am getting old. You know that. 40, I could do okay. 20 years in needed. God said no. My training period, I'll tell you when my training period is over. I'll tell you when your waiting period is over. What happened in 40 years? That man who operated in flesh, that man became the meekest man in all the earth. The man who was impetuous, who was arrogant, abrasive, he became the meekest man in all the earth. You see the transformation that happened within him because of the waiting period. My dear brothers and sisters, use this waiting time. God is building on your character. God is telling you, these are the things that are should be chiseled off in your life. These are the areas that you want to correct in your life, and receive that with thanksgiving and say, Lord, yeah, I know. These are the things that you want to use me, but first God wants to break us before he can use us. God wanted to chisel off the rough edges so that he can frame a man who can lead these people out of the bondage. The second thing is God wants to transform our character, because in Hebrews chapter 5, what do we read? Patience. Can we read that verse? Not Hebrews, Romans chapter 5 and verse 3.
Not only that, but we also glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, character, and character hope.
Perseverance, character. You see that? And character, hope. And hope will never fail. See that? In times of trouble, what is the one thing that keeps us going? Pumping forward? Hope. In order to have hope, these are the process through which you go through. Tribulation, patience, character, hope. You cannot have shortcuts. Right? You try to have shortcuts, it will not happen. Right? So what is the one thing that we need in the time of tribulation? So you go through tribulation, don't complain. Don't say, Lord, this is too much for me. No. It's working. Right? Patience in us. And patience, character. Character will develop hope. And hope will never fail. In the time of great trouble that's going to come, I believe this is one thing that holds people strong in the Lord. That allowed people to go through the fire of tribulation triumphantly. This is what God wants you and me to have. Third thing, is waiting builds intimacy and dependence on God. Abraham learned this lesson very well, I believe, of the ill effects of not waiting for the Lord. Later in his life, while he was sojourning in that country, he was a very rich man. He was a very, very wealthy man in that country. Now God promised the whole land to him. Now if he would have tempted to use some of that money to buy some piece of land and build a house and stay there, right? I mean, that's very tempting when you have a lot of money and you have a lot of servants and things and everything. God says, oh, actually God has given me this money, to do all these things. But did he get one piece of land? Only one piece he had, of course, for burying us. Right, that's how. What was he looking? He was building his intimacy with God during the time of waiting. And because of that intimacy, you know what happened? When Sodom and Gomorrah was about to be destroyed, God is making a profound statement. You know what is he saying? What is he saying? Can I do this without consulting with Abraham? What is God's business of consulting with Abraham? God is God and Abraham is just a man. But God is saying, can I do this thing without telling Abraham, my servant? You see that intimacy? Waiting period developed that intimacy with God, where God shared his burden with this man. He was telling, this is in my heart and this is one man who is able to understand. And you know what? Abraham is interceding with God. Lord, please 50. Lord, 40. 30. And he knew that he could talk to God and bargain with God. And this would to God that we would develop that kind of intimacy with God. But we always like to share our burden to God. Lord, I am having good things trouble. Oh Lord, this is my problem. I didn't pass my exam. This thing stopped. I'm not getting a company. All these burdens we try to unburden on him. How can God tell his burden to whom? Lord, I have no time. Please don't tell me anything. I already have enough burdens. No. God is trying to share his burden to people. He's saying, whom can I tell this? People are just coming to me with their burdens. To whom can I say my burden? Jonah was troubled because on one day he had something on his head and some shade, and he was very happy because of that. And one night that thing went, and he was very angry. He said, Jonah, do you know something? You are worried about this one thing that was on your head. Your personal comfort taken away for a time being, and you're very angry. Should I not be concerned about this many people who does not know the difference between their right hand and their left hand, and many cattle? Should I not be concerned? That book ends with a question mark. Should I not be concerned about them? This is my burden, Jonah. You are burdened about this small little comfort over your head, and that came one night and died overnight. You are concerned about these things. With whom shall I share my burden? Building waits intimacy. Those who wait upon the Lord, they will not be weary. They will not be tired. What do Isaiah chapter 40 says? Those who wait upon the Lord renew their strength. Renew their strength. It's told of eagle. I don't know how far it is scientifically proved. Eagle has got two phases of life. At one stage, it has got a choice. I think at age 40, I believe, to just live. Its beaks are getting weak, its wings are getting, and it will just die. That's one option that is got. Another option is that it goes to a high mountain, it breaks his beak, it shucks off his feathers and waits for new things to come. It's a waiting period where it gets fresh kind of beaks and fresh kind of wings, and he gets another 40 years. That's an option in life. Whether you want to wait for God and renew your strength, and you're saying, Lord, I'm tired. I can't move forward. I'm just stuck here. I mean, I'm ineffective. I can't do anything with it. Give your, in that verse it's interesting. Those who wait upon the Lord will renew this. That word renew can also be translated in Hebrew into exchange their strength. Exchange. What do you exchange? You give your weakness to God, and God will give His strength to you. You tell the Lord, this is my weakness. I mean, I can't do a thing. This is my beak which is ineffective. These are my wings, I can't fly with it. Give it to the Lord. And God will give His strength. In New Testament, Apostle Paul says, I can do all things. He doesn't stop there. Through Christ who strengthens me. It is His strength. It's not your strength. You are going not in your strength. You should go in His strength. This is the amazing part of Christian life. So, I just told you about the importance of waiting. But many, as Jesus said, tarry here and pray. Watch and pray. I'm going to come back. But instead of waiting expectantly for His return, today what is the Christendom doing? That's a story said by Jesus. Very, very true about today's case. Can you read Luke chapter 12 and verse 43 onwards? They saw some servants, the master said, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to come back, please tarry, please wait. But the servant saw something. What was that? Servant saw, verse 45. Read it. Servant says where? Not in his head, in his heart. My master is delaying his coming. Now he's not saying with his mouth, okay? He's saying in his heart. In his mind he's thinking, Arey, Jesus won't come for next 10 years. So what he does?
He begins to beat the male and female servants, and to eat and drink and be drunk.
You see that? Because he says in his heart that Master is not going to come. I can experience little death, no problem. Towards the end, when things are all cleared up, I can. You see, this is not true love. If you think of a girl married to a man or engaged to a man, and during that engagement period, you think, oh, engagement is 1 year off, so I can little bit enjoy now and flirt around with other men. Is that love? Or if she's saying, oh, today if you see me somewhere, then I'll be in trouble. Is that also love? No. Fear. See, today many people obey God out of fear. Oh, the Lord comes tonight, then I'll be in trouble, so I better be. That's not true love. That's not true love. What is true love? True love is to wait for Him expectantly. Even in our heart, Lord, I know that you said you're going to come, that I am going to do what you asked me to do. That's the spirit that we all should have. Not obeying Him out of fear or fear of failure. Oh, God will punish me in my exam, so I better be good and nice. Or I'll have something bad in my life. No, that's not true love. We may obey God like that, but that's not true love. It's not obedience coming out of love. Okay. Now in the remaining part of the chapter, we see two examples. One bad, one good. Many times we get into mess is because we listen to bad advice, bad leadership. What did God say to Moses when he left? The same verse, again I'm going to read 24 verse 14, Exodus.
Wait here for us until you come back.
Wait here for us until this one command is given, wait. Second command, yes.
Indeed, I will not go with you.
If any man
has
a difficulty,
let him go to them.
Right. So why did God keep leaders? If there is a difficulty, what did God say? Let them go to them. You all guys wait here, and during the waiting period, if any one of you has got any difficulty, go to Aaron and Hur. God given responsibility of giving godly counsel in the waiting periods. But what happens? In 32nd chapter, come to the 32nd chapter, and they came to him with a difficulty. They came to Aaron with a difficulty. What is the difficulty? Moses, or the man of God who brought us out of Egypt, is delaying. We've been waiting for him more than 39 days. We could have just waited for one more day, right? Just around the corner. Right? Came to Aaron and asked for advice. What did the advice? What did they say? Now this man Moses is off and we don't know when he will come. Now what is the thing? Make us. It's bad leadership to give bad advice. When they came to him, God entrusted them to minister to his people while in the waiting period, giving bad advice, bad counsel. The sign of a bad leadership, right? He should have had the mind of God. He had walked with Moses. He knows what the mind of God is. He knows that idol worship is wrong. He knows that God is not pleased with this kind of a behavior. Yet, he did not give that counsel. This is not right. So, bad leadership is not taking up the God-given responsibility. When God tells you, feed my sheep, please take care of them till I come, and you give worldly advice, worldly counsel, not consulting with God, not understanding the mind of God, and this is very, very bad. One thing is that he did not give them godly counsel. Second thing, he aided them. He helped them in their sins. You see that in the chapter 32, and if you would read 4, verse 4. He gave them advice to bring us gold, and then what did he do? He fashioned it for them. Oh. Today, theologians are good in fashioning. Yeah? They will find some verse from the Bible for support for the wrong that people do. Fashion. Fashioning sin. It's another thing, another wrong. You see, you pluck verses from out of context in the Bible, you can do like this. You can fashion a golden calf. Many of this wrong theology and cult that we see in Christendom today are fashioned golden calves. Why? Because the leaders, instead of throwing those things away, they took those things and fashioned it. Today, we are copying many things from the world. The pop culture we want to copy. The culture that Westerners had thrown out into the dustbin, we want to take from the dustbin and use that. Where? Not in the world, in the church. Fashioning. Instead of identifying sins, we are aiding in the worship of idols. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to tell you, we want to be very, very careful while in the God-given responsibility of not aiding or fashioning things or the world or God rejects. Third thing is verse 25. 25, verse 25. Third wrong that he did. Verse 25 was verse chapter 32. Yes.
Moses saw that the people were unrestrained, for Aaron had not restrained them.
What was that God-given responsibility? To restrain people. When they go astray, it was Aaron's responsibility to bring them in order. Right? What did he do? He let them go unrestrained. Many sins that we commit is like that. When we see something wrong, instead of bringing things in order, we close our eyes. Let God forgive us for this kind of a sin. To keep things in order, instead of checking and telling them, this is not God's will, he let loose. And what does it end? We saw great disaster, because it's a bad leadership that we see in Aaron's case. But there is the opposite. We see good leadership. I want to focus on that for a couple of for some time. Moses was with God for 40 days. Now he's going to come, and God is giving an advance notification that your people have gone astray. They have broken the first commandment. Now, when that is said to Moses, what is the reaction of Moses? The mark of a great leader, a man who had God's heart, a man who is so concerned and so intimate with God that he understands the mind of God. Now, what is the mark of a good leader? You see, God had freedom to open this problem only to Moses. What does that tell you? Just like in Abraham's case, intimacy. God did not tell any of the Israelites. God did not speak to any of them. God spoke to Moses. What does that tell you? He was intimate with God. Now, do you develop intimacy with God? Intimacy is not familiarity. Familiarity is not intimacy. Just by calling Jesus your friend, you will not be your friend. How can intimacy be developed? Intimacy is developed in the closed room, where you spend time with God, waiting on Him, understanding Him, going through the difficulties that comes because of the Word. This is how intimacy develops. And Moses was just to be there 40 days. All his commandments which we just saw, from 25 to 30, it would have taken only a few hours. Lord, thank you very much, shall I go? I said, wait. What is there to say for 40 days? All these things, before that another 40 days, the 10 commandments and the few things, would have that spoken in 2-3 hours, right? Why he had to wait for 40 days and 40 nights? God is saying, Moses, sit down. You look at me. You enjoy me. Commandments will come. What we want, Lord, I have 5 minutes, okay? Yeah? You tell me I have a rush, I have another program, I have to go. I said, okay, you go then. I have nothing to tell you. One of our friends, I told you this, in the Middle East, he was called for a feast by one of the sheikhs in the desert. And there was a big kind of feast where a lot of servants were there. They were busy serving every kind of dish and delicacies and all that. And the sheikh was sitting, and this man was this guest was a guest of honor, and he was called. And so all the servants were busy, and there was one servant who was not moving. He was standing still on the door. And this friend asked the sheikh, who's that guy? Why is he not doing anything? And the sheikh said, that man is my very close servant. Then why is he not doing anything? His job is not to do anything. His job is to wait. His only job is to look at my face. I said, why? Because he knows the expression of my face. He can read the expression of my face, and he will act. His whole job throughout this service is to just look at my face, look at my eyes, look at the way I behave, and he understands. In the New Testament, when we see in Matthew chapter 18, we see, do not offend these little children. Why? The angels always see the face of my Father. One blink of my Father's eye, they are out to do action. So beware. Don't offend these little children, because their angels are always waiting to get instruction from the Father and go to do that. It's bad for you if you do that. You see, are you one of those servants who always look to the face of the Lord? Lord, please tell me, amen. I don't have anything to see. Our problem is we are always like little children. Daddy, I want chocolate. I want this. I want this. A full shopping list, and we come. It's kind of a beggarly kind of lifestyle we are having. When do beggars come to our house? When they need something, right? And then when they get, do they stay? They'll just go. Next time when they come? Next time when they are in need, they'll come. We are kind of beggars, most of the time. God gives. Out of His bounty, He gives to everyone who asks. And there is another kind of existence. The child of the family. He also asks for money sometimes. God gives. But what is the difference now? The beggarly kind of life and the sonship. Beggar needs father's money. Son needs the father. That's the difference. Son enjoys the father. Beggar enjoys the gifts of the father. Which category are we? We just we are satisfied with what God gives. God gives you a job, very happy. When things are bad, very down. Beggarly kind of life. But there is a kind of life which is much more intimate, in which we can enjoy the Father. Just like that older son, he said, all these years I served you and you did not give me a lamb to enjoy with my friends. His idea of enjoyment was enjoying with his friends. What was the father's idea of enjoyment? My boy, your brother enjoyed with his friends, and what happened? He became a kind of he lost his ears, and when he realized that it is not my friends, it is not the world, it is not the money, it is the Father that I need, and he said, I will go to my Father and I will say, Father, I have sinned against you and against heaven. Please accept me as I want you, my dad. I don't want your money. First, I asked for your money and I know what futility it is, how bad it was, what a great sin it was that I asked for your money. I would have asked for you. I never asked, Daddy. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. The younger son understood the importance of coming back to the father's house. The older son was in the father's house but did not understand the wonder and the beauty and the majesty and the splendor and the closeness of the father's house. Which son are you? I'm sorry to say that many people just are serving God to just get something from Him. And never understand that this God is a God who gives everything but at the same time gives Himself to us. He's able to enjoy His wonderful presence all the time. Moses was given an offer. What was that offer? I'm going to kill these people and I'll make you a great nation. What a wonderful offer. All these guys are idolaters. I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to make you a great nation. That was a great offer. What did he say? Thank you very much. I don't want. He's not interested in personal gains. When the offer was made to him, he said, no. Lord, I don't want any of that. That's not my thing. You see, great leaders, they reject personal gains out of the situation. This is a bad situation. They're not going to make money out of this. They're not going to make a name out of this. This is a tragic situation. And God is offering, you see, I will make you a great nation. There is a great opportunity for him to make a name, to be called a people of Moses. He said, no, that wording that is used, when God told him what he said in verse 7. Verse 7.
When the Lord said to Moses, go down because
your people. God is using that your people. This is Moses. He would have said, yeah, my people. He could have taken that ownership of those people and say, yeah, I'm the leader, so they are my people. You know what? When the reply, what Moses said? Verse 11.
Lord,
Then Moses pleaded with the Lord his God and said, Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people?
Your people, Lord, they're not my people, they're not my followers. They're your followers. Today, this tendency of great leaders, when people come to their church or come to their congregation, they're mine. They are mine. Through me, they came to the Lord. I was a mentor and I am the leader and blah blah blah. What did Moses say? Lord, that's not my people. I don't have anything to do with this. They're your people. You have the heart of God. You see this. They're your people. For your people's sake, for your name's sake. I don't have anything in this. It's a great, great leader. No wonder. When Moses died, God is making a comment. He's saying, my servant Moses died. With all people I spoke through dreams and visions, but through Moses I spoke face to face. Do you want to be a child of God? Do you want to be a great leader? Follow his footsteps. What did he do? He interceded for people. He didn't give up. He didn't say, okay, God, go ahead and do it. No. What did he say? God said, I'm going to destroy them. God, what did he say? Verse 11. 3 things he said in their defense. They said, 1, I already told you, they are your people. God, reminding God, they are your people. You're interceding for a person. Always remember to remind God that, Lord, they are not my people. They are not my followers. They are not my church people. They are not my relatives. They are not my friends. They are your people, Lord. Have mercy on them. Will you be able to give your people to God, into the hands of God? They may go different places. They may speak to many different places. Are you just acknowledging the fact that they are your people, Lord? That's the first thing he said. Second thing, in verse 13.
Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants to whom you swore by your own self, and said to them, I will multiply your descendants in the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of, I give to your descendants, and they shall inherit forever.
Okay, and then verse 12. I was just thinking about verse 12. Yes,
Why
sorry.
should the Egyptians speak
Why should the Egyptians speak?
and say,
Yeah.
He brought them out to harm them, to kill them in the mountains?
So second thing, when we come to the Lord, just God remember and reminds maybe God about his reputation. God, you delivered them. They are your people. You brought them here. Lord, please don't. This is for the glory of your name. This is not for my glory. People say that Moses brought them up. No. But you brought them out. This is not Moses who brought us out. But you brought them out and said, remember your reputation. Remember your people. Remember your reputation. Third thing is verse 13 we just read. He was just reminding God about the promises that he made to his fathers. Remind God of the promises. Reminding God that they are his people. Reminding God about his reputation. Reminding God about his promises. With a heart of a true intercessor. A true intercessor, that he pleaded with God. He didn't go just like Abraham. He said, 50 Lord? No. 40 Lord? No. 30 Lord? No. 10? Okay, 10 I won't. Right? There were not even 10 people. But God brought that one man out from Sodom and Gomorrah. Are you able to? God is saying, I'm looking for a person, right? In Ezekiel, I'm looking for a man who can stand in the gap. I couldn't find one man. Everyone is coming with their problems and troubles and difficulties. There is no one who is willing to stand in the gap. My dear brothers and sisters, is God calling you to stand in the gap for your friends, for your brothers, for your sisters, for your relatives? Do it faithfully. Because that man stood in the midst of God and his people. What happened? In verse 14. See what happened?
So the Lord relented from the harm which he said he would do to his people.
God offended or went back, relented. You see, because of our intercession, God may stop what He is planning to do. Right? Our India nation, a great nation, is going through a very, very difficult time. Every day we hear of news of people being beaten up, the progress of gospel being stopped. Our dear brother is working in Wayanad. He knows the difficulties of moving forward. Other people today who can intercede for our nation? People today who can just stand in the midst of our nation and between God and plead and intercede for them and cry for them? God is looking for people. We are so much worried about our own things, my job, my studies, my future, my house, my car, my career. That's all we are concerned about. May God give us burden. And what about this man? One more thing I want to say about this leadership. Verse 32.
He took the calf which he had made.
32, verse 32. Yeah.
Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, I pray, blot me out of your book which you have written.
This great leader is saying, Lord, if you don't forgive, then take my life. He is willing to keep his life on the line. He is willing to be even cut off. Do you have that kind of concern for others? Lord, if you don't forgive, please kill me. Please take my life. Please blot me out of your book. That much of concern. He was a very genuine leader. And not only that, he dealt, when he came down, he saw the anger of God. Now when he came down, he was angry. He dealt with sin. Right? He pleaded for his people, but at the same time, he dealt with sin. I don't have time to go through all that. He burned that idol, he powdered it, he distributed it in the water and made them drink. What is the object of sin? Destroyed it. Do you have that kind of anger when you sin against God? What you watch, what you see, destroy that. Completely take it out of your life and just ruthlessly obliterate it from your life. Is that possible? That's the way that you should look at sin. When something has caused you to fall, stumble and fall, what do you do with that stumbling block? Do you again keep it there? No. Take it and throw it away, destroy it and remove it from your life so that next time you will not stumble. That's what he did. And second, he punished the offenders. You see, God's holy wrath was executed. Now, who executed this? Moses could not do it all alone. Who said, who was in the sight of the Lord? Right? You go home and read the full chapter, you will see that. Who was in the sight of the Lord and who came? Who came?
Levites.
The Levites came. You know what they did? They said, don't look at whether he is your brother or your relative or your friend. If they had done anything wrong and worshipped, and they were an idolater, ruthlessly killed them. How many people died at that day? 3,000. That means, when Moses came to one tent, hey guy, I'm your friend. No. Did you worship that idol? There was no discrimination shown by them. They did not saw that they were brothers. They were relatives. You see, today in churches, if one person has done a sin and if that is blood relation, no action. This is how churches are divided today. Because they are not able to see that sin in its the way that God looks at it. Because he is a relative, because he is a friend, partiality is shown. And because partiality is shown, God is not pleased at all. In fact, I'll say this in closing. Levites, when the 12 tribes were blessed or given their future in the book of Genesis chapter 49, Jacob is telling about Simeon and Levi. Good or bad? Good or bad? got bad. What did they do? In their anger, they killed a nation. And Jacob is saying, oh my soul, don't get into their things. I will scatter them. There was a curse that was given to Levi in the book of Genesis. But praise God. When you come to Deuteronomy, I'll read that in closing. When Moses is giving a blessing to all the tribes, what did he say? Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 8 and 9 and 10 and 11. 8 to 11. Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 8 to 11. Please listen attentively.
And of Levi he said,
Yes.
let your Thummim and your Urim be with your Holy One, whom you tested at Massah, and with whom you contended at the waters of Meribah, who says of his father and mother,
Who says of his father and mother,
I have not seen them,
I have not seen them,
nor did he acknowledge his
nor did he acknowledge them,
or know his own children, but they have observed your word and kept your covenant.
They have observed the word and kept his covenant. Yes.
They shall teach Jacob your judgments, and Israel your law.
Because they were not looking at faces, God gave them a special responsibility to them. What was that?
They shall teach Jacob.
They shall teach them. They will be teachers because they knew my heart.
They shall put incense before you, and a whole burnt sacrifice on your altar. Bless his substance, Lord, and accept the work of his hands. Strike the loins of those who rise against him, and of those who hate him.
What a tremendous blessing that was given to Levi. These were the people who were standing for the Lord. And God said, you are the guys who are going to teach them. And He said, Lord, bless their inheritance. Bless their produce. Bless their work. Bless their teaching. You see, in the last book of the New Testament, Malachi, there is a few mention about Levi. You know what the prophet says about Levi in Malachi, in the book of Malachi and chapter 2 and verse 4 and 5 and 6. Malachi chapter 2 verse 4, 5 and 6.
Then you shall know that I have sent this commandment to you, that my covenant with Levi may continue. Says the Lord of hosts.
Yes.
My covenant was with him.
My covenant was with him between I and Levi. Yes.
One of life and peace.
One of life and peace. You see, because they executed the anger of God, because they were able to understand the mind of God, they were able to have a covenant with God. And what was the covenant?
Life and peace.
Yes.
And I gave them to him that he might fear me. So he feared me and was reverent before my name.
He feared me and he was reverent. He had a godly fear because when he asked to do, he understood me and did it. And then?
The law of truth was in his mouth.
Yes.
And injustice was not found on his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and turned many away from iniquity.
He walked with me, and while he was walking, he turned many others from the iniquity. You see that? Do you have the mind of Levi? Who is in the side of the Lord? Who will come for me? Who will work for me? And then said, while he was walking, he turned many others from iniquity. My dear brothers and sisters, we have tremendous instruction on this. This man Moses, even in a tragic situation like this, was able to stand and intercede for his people. We are in the troubled times. Troubled times are ahead of us. How do we see kind of apostasy in the midst of God's people? Do we have a heart which is tender enough to cry for them before the Lord, at the same time solid enough to deal with sin when we meet that, without any compromise? May the Lord give us wisdom and help and understanding of knowing the mind of Christ. Paul says, you have the mind of Christ. The things of Christ to us. The Holy Spirit will reveal these things to us when we obey Him and walk in His ways. May the Lord God help us as we think about these things.